Hello, everybody. Hi, I'm Laura Scapitici from the Anthroposophical Society. I'm waiting to see who else is jumping on the call. We're just going to take another minute here. There we go. Numbers are climbing up. And as you come onto the call, please use the Q&A and tell me where you are calling from. So you can just click on that Q&A. We're just going to get used to the technology. Here comes somebody. Somebody knows the drill here. Oh, yes. My friends in Portland. Hello. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know where you're calling from. There's somebody from Vermont and Oakland. And again, welcome to Initiation of the Heart, a 3-part webinar with Patrick Kennedy, who you'll see in a minute. Some of you might be able to see him, some not. You just see me from now. But as soon as Patrick starts talking, you'll see him on the screen. And yeah, use the Q&A and let me know where you're calling from. I'm Laura Scapitici from the Anthroposophical Society, and I'm joined here with folks from Clearwater, Florida, Floyd, Virginia, Liberty, Tennessee, Connecticut, Spencerville, Ontario, hello, Canada, Harlemville, New York, hello, Santa Fe, New Mexico, Miami, Florida, Ward, Colorado. Everybody, yeah, keep typing in. Let me know where you're calling from. Seattle, Los Angeles. Where else? Anybody else want to share where they're from? Palo Alto, California. Hey, Philadelphia, Philly in the house there. Thank you for coming. Who else is here? Seattle. Delaware. Hello, Delaware. Vancouver Island. Oh, what a beautiful place. You have all your tulips right now. What a beautiful place. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so we're about to get started. Yes, you do have your tulips up in Vancouver Island. Thank you. Wenatchee, Washington. That was fun to say. Scotland. Hi, Scotland. How are you doing? It's the country of Scotland. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining us, and we're going to jump right in. And I'd like to just take a minute to introduce Patrick, who I feel so fortunate to be working with the second time on these webinars. And it's been so nice to work with you, Patrick. Great sense of humor and such knowledge and depth and caring. Thank you for being here with us. And just so people know a little bit about you, you've been a priest in the movement for spiritual renewal, otherwise known as the Christian Community, since 2006. And you're the director now of the North American Seminary. That's in Spring Valley, New York, where you live with your family. And I know you have a background in early childhood and also a degree in cultural anthropology. And what I've found is that you just bring these very deep concepts in such a relatable way. So I'm going to stop talking so you can do that. And thanks to everybody for being on the call from all over the country and outside the country too. So thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Laura, for that very warm introduction. I think I can speak on behalf of all of us in the Anthroposophical community and society of how grateful we are for your efforts recently. Unbelievable energy, enthusiasm, not to be knocked down. Keep coming and bringing unbelievable events. I think it's just been beautiful to see, for me especially, you know, just to think about how so many people all around the country, all around North America, all around the world, they're often not near a community of people where they can really connect. And the people I meet when I'm traveling, for example, in Nashville, Tennessee, or Auburn, Alabama, or Atlanta, Georgia, people who are on the outskirts away from a place like I live here in Spring Valley, where we're like drowning in spiritual efforts, you know. Sunbridge Institute for the teacher training. We have one of the most world-renowned and best eurythmy trainings there is in the Eurythmy Spring Valley. it's just extraordinary what they're doing there. We have the seminary, we have the fellowship community for elder care. It goes kind of on and on and on. We have a craft studio, we have early childhood training, and so many people are just, you know, somewhere far away. And these webinars seem to me to be one concrete way where we're taking advantage of the technologies that are available right now and trying to facilitate actual human connections, as well as a spirituality that can help us overcome the effects of the technology, actually.
Thank you for saying that, Patrick. Yes, thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Laura. It's really great. So here we go again. We're going to try a new thing, a three-part series. And I have to say at the beginning, it's always very challenging for me to try to talk about this topic anyway. It belongs to the most profound content I know of in the world, in terms of also the legacies of what Rudolf Steiner left us in his research that he called the Fifth Gospel. He himself spoke about how extraordinarily difficult it was for him to try to speak what had been revealed to him in this content. To also now do that somehow through a computer to invisible friends all around, it's a threshold to step over, but it's so important. It's so necessary, I think, and needed by human souls right now that I'm willing to try.
Thank you for trying. We all appreciate it.
I want to say, for me, it has simply been that big of a gift. It has been that big of a kind of rescue for my own heart, what I have received through the content of the Fifth Gospel, and an orientation towards a way of being in the world that can allow my heart to actually become more than it already is. And to not close up and harden and become bitter and cynical and fearful, which will tend to happen to human hearts right now in our time. I mean, if you just take a look at, for example, ask any human being, no matter what their political background, who they vote for whenever they vote, ask them if they trust their government. It's like the lowest, trust rating, I think, in the history of our country in the past 10 years. Ask them if they trust the media. It doesn't matter which political side you're on. Ask them if they trust medical experts. You could go through almost every single aspect of our culture right now, and the feeling of fear and distrust, of pain, there is such an overwhelming also knowledge through the new medias. In every single pocket, the world is pouring in to little phones, and you pull it out and you get a certain bunch of news delivered to you. And of course, the images, the wording, and the video attached is meant to affect our feelings. Because you're only going to click on something if it somehow is scintillating, dramatic. Oh my gosh, what? And you press on it. So it's in the nature actually of them getting people to pay attention to their websites or their news outlets that they want to actually basically freak people out.
Mm-hmm.
So the people I work with in my work as a pastor in the Christian community, you find that their hearts are simply overwhelmed. terribly overwhelmed, and often quite filled with feelings that aren't very pretty, to put it mildly. A lot of anger, a lot of rage, a lot of pain. And so it seems to me, maybe I would just add one other fact in all of this. What's the number one cause of death in our country? It's basically something related to the heart disease, heart failure. The heart is somehow, despite the fact that we live in the wealthiest country the world has ever seen, we actually have extraordinarily low crime rates. We're extremely safe. We have a great birth rate, and on and on and on. People are overwhelmed in their heart, actually very often unable to bear what they witness in the world. So in that context, for me, when I came across what Rudolf Steiner calls the fifth gospel, you could ask, well, why has this showed up? Why has the spiritual world, through Rudolf Steiner, felt that it is necessary to give us another gospel? For 2,000 years, we had a missing link. In the four gospels that describe this most extraordinary event from the perspective of spiritual science, of the incarnation of the world creator's spirit into a human heart. The four gospels that write about that skip his age 12 to age 30. They don't tell us anything of what happens in his life from the age of 12 to the age of 30 when he is baptized into Jordan. There are these so-called missing years of Jesus. Why would, in the 20th century, it suddenly appear as the new revelation about that story? And why exactly in the 20th century would things like the Dead Sea Scrolls be discovered after sitting hidden in caves for nearly 2,000 years? So there is something basically begging a question. Why was it revealed? And that's a question I really lived in, and I want to try to talk about that over these 3 sessions. We can go to the next slide, Laura.
Okay. So I'm just going to stop the share. I have to do something to the slides, and then I'll have them up in just a minute, okay? So maybe you could just start talking about that. So go ahead, Patrick, and why don't you just talk about the next slide and just give me 1 minute and I will fix what needs to be fixed. Thanks.
Well, so just to give a little bit of an outline then, for this session today, we're going to explore what we mean maybe from a spiritual scientific perspective by our feeling life. That's connected in a special way to our heart. Feeling things, as I was talking to friends in Washington, D.C. recently when I was giving this talk, it's, you could say the least, well, maybe go at it this way. We certainly value thought. We value thinking. You got to plan things with your thinking. You have to think things through, understand things, and you can solve problems with your thinking. Thinking is effective. If you've got a problem, you can think about it and you can solve it. You can fix the problem. Similarly, also with our will, same thing. You walk into a place, there's a broken window, you can sweep it up, you can go by a window, you can fix it, you can stick it in. Well, what can we do with our feeling? especially I think in the West, here in America, feeling is basically a problem because feeling is something that makes us very ineffective. If I'm going to feel something, I'm just not very useful. Feeling things takes time. I have to stop, and all I can do in that moment is be impacted by it. Something hits me, strikes me, and affects me. In my feeling life, in some ways, we often feel like we're victims because we're powerless. We feel helpless to do anything about the thing we are feeling. The place where we feel safe to feel is when we are taking in art. That's why I think a lot of people love music, while they love watching television shows and films, because you can live in and feel into these stories. While you go to the theater, you can laugh, you can cry. It's a kind of place where you feel like, oh, I know what to do with my feelings here. And the arts, you could say, are the place where empathy is asked for. And we go through, even though we know the story, whether it's Hamlet or Romeo and Juliet, it's like everyone knows how it ends, but that's not why you go. You don't go because you don't know the ending. It's like, uh-oh, spoiler alert, Romeo and Juliet both die. That's not why you go. You go because you want to go through something. You go because you want to actually feel all those feelings that they have. And that's why Romeo and Juliet is especially great. It's a big festival of feelings, falling passionately in love, being denied that love, the fight scenes, the drama between the families. Will love be able to survive? No, the drama at the end. You know, it takes us through what Aristotle called cathartic processes. It allows the soul to go through enormously transformative experiences that purify by going through them. But it's different in life. In life, what do we do? If I'm at work and I'm supposed to be, doing data entry, and someone in my family has died. If I'm going to feel what that means, it's really hard to do data entry anymore. I can't sit there and type and look at a screen. I need time. Feeling is in many ways, thinking is a lot, it asks less of us. Feeling already asks so much of us. And so that's one of the reasons why we don't let ourselves feel, is because it's ineffective. It makes us ineffective. It's harder to, if I'm going to really feel something, if I've gone through heartbreak, if I'm going through loss, if I've read the news about some terrible thing and I'm supposed to just get up and go, it's really hard to allow myself to feel those things. And that gets at this other deeper level. So you can see here, can everyone see the slide?
Yeah, if they're on the computer, they should be able to see the slide, no problem.
So we're with part 1 here, feeling the world and the world significance of our inner lives. What does it mean that we look into the world and not just try to understand it or be active in it, but actually feel it, to feel the world?
And I just want to say, people might be seeing a lag on your computer, and we're just gonna roll with that for this webinar. So if you're seeing a gap between the words and the sound, we're just gonna roll with that this time. And the next time, maybe we'll try to do something about that. But I think we can't for this time. I just wanted to acknowledge it in case anybody was feeling any dissonance there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about the technical difficulties. If there is, you can just look away. There's nothing really to look at here anyway. You can listen to the voice, then that's even better.
That's right. Thank you.
In our second session, we will then look more specifically at the research of Rudolf Steiner into the life of Jesus. And then in the third session, it will be May, and we will look at the mystery of Pentecost and how that's actually connected to the fruits of this process, the gifts of going through this initiation of the heart. Next slide. So I wanted then I mentioned just this idea of just how there is something actually, there's a deep spiritual reason, there's a meaning why in our time this fifth gospel has been revealed. And Rudolf Steiner doesn't actually go out and say it directly, but he says these words: although people show little inclination to be told such facts as these, and he's talking about the fifth gospel, it was absolutely essential that knowledge of such facts should be brought into earth evolution at the present time. Absolutely essential. There's some kind of necessity that this is now being revealed. The souls which now receive them will undoubtedly need them for the work they must do in soul and spirit as human evolution progresses. I would say for me, it's a kind of really helpful orientation to Rudolf Steiner's work to think he only gave what was needed by the time. He experienced, witnessed, and knew much, much more than he said. Therefore, what he said was because it was needed. Sometimes people talk about this in terms of he didn't give help until a question was asked. There was much he gave that was a question of the human soul of our time, not because someone asked specifically, but because he had a duty to respond to the deep need of human hearts into the future, as it says. The souls which now receive them will undoubtedly need them. It's like they don't necessarily know they need it now. They will need it. This is 1913. The First World War hasn't happened, right? At this point, the whole world is like really in a happy illusion. The modern era has broken. It's still kind of the glory of technology and of the modern era and of modern science. And the unbelievable horror and devastation of the First and Second World Wars haven't happened. But before, on the eve of it happening, the year before, it's December, this quote, December 1913, less than a year before it breaks out, he shares these words: they will undoubtedly need them. Next slide. So you could say the question behind the years between 12 and 30 of Jesus of Nazareth is what is it that made his heart able to receive the Christ being? Why him? In all of world destiny, why was it this soul that was deemed the one that could bear his being, his healing spirit? And here you see this quote from Rudolf Steiner describing the child Jesus when he says the Nathan Jesus. That comes from, as most of you I'm sure know, Rudolf Steiner's research into the fact that actually to help make this incarnation of this cosmic being of love possible, it took two families and it took two children who represented two totally different streams in the spiritual life of humanity.
And if you don't know that you can ask us more questions after the webinar because it's a long, longer, yes, but
and I give resources also in the back so you can follow up. It's
yeah,
all of this, of course, is very controversial for conventional Christianity, and we have to bear that. That's so, just because it's controversial, that's okay. That doesn't make it true or untrue. One has to investigate it themselves and look into it. If you've got a closed heart to it, you have a closed heart to it. But nothing Rudolf Steiner brought was brought with in any kind of dilettantic, sensational way. It was always because it was needed, and this is connected to it. And what you find also in the Gospels is that there are two different lineages. In the Gospel of Luke, you have a lineage that is described that goes back not to King Solomon, but actually to Nathan. Nathan was the prophet who served King Solomon. And that's why in this particular quote, Rudolf Steiner refers to him as the Nathan Jesus. There's the Solomon Jesus, which is described in St. Matthew's Gospel. That's his lineage. In the Luke Gospel, the lineage goes back through Nathan. And when he's describing this child, this human being, the distinctive character, and this would be the one who would become the vessel, the bearer of the Christ Spirit. Thus, in the Nathan Jesus, we see a being with infinite depths of feeling. And that gives to us one of the secrets of the whole fifth gospel. It's what revealed to us there in the middle of Rudolf Steiner's work, 1913, 1914. He reveals to us the path of how a human being became the bearer of the Christ Spirit. And his signature quality was not his mind, not his brilliance, nor was it his sacrificial strength and power to do deeds of might. It was this element, a being with infinite depths of feeling. Next slide, please. So I mentioned just this question of, well, we can think about how our thinking is really helpful, it's useful. We can think about how our willing and activity, our hands and our legs and our feet can be, our deeds in the world can be helpful. We don't usually ask the question, what can our feelings do? Because usually the experience is basically our feelings are just things we go through. I'm sad, I'm happy, I'm upset, I'm reacting. We think of our feeling life as something that is reactive. But when we want to explore the practice of compassion, which we want to get into in this seminar, then we're asking the question, what is it that feeling can do that actually thinking and willing can't? What is it that feeling can do in the world? And Laura has said that supposedly we can be already actually a little interactive. So I'm going to try it out this time and see how it goes. Just think for a moment of some time in your life, of some person who, when you were with them, were able simply to feel your pain. To feel something of what you are going through. What did you experience? Can you possibly try to describe what it feels like when somebody else feels your pain?
did you want them to,
Yeah.
should we type something in if you have an answer to that, right?
Yeah,
Is that true?
yeah,
And the Q&A would be great.
yeah. Exactly.
We have a couple people typing in on different places here. Someone said, I feel seen. So if someone else feels their pain, they feel seen. Someone else said, I feel relief.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
You can see gratefulness is another one. I feel released and heard. It lightens. I feel surrounded by love. It's so beautiful. Consoled. Weight is lifted. Consoled. Comforted. Witnessed. I don't feel alone. I feel loved. It feels like a very expansive oneness with the other.
Yeah.
It's a nice description there. Deep connection and love. It's beautiful answers.
Really, really beautiful. And you could say, well, what difference does that make? Right? Did it fix the problem? Did it change the situation? Yeah, it's someone is mentioning that they're in tears. It's just, if you think about like what happened, where was I before that happened? And what happened to me after that person heard me, felt with me, didn't give advice, didn't fix it, didn't change the situation, just felt with me. I would submit the idea. I'll put it in its starkest way from a dear friend of mine whose work I can only highly recommend, which is Paul K. Chappell, who has written now 6 books on the Road to Peace series. He is a West Point graduate and a former Iraq soldier, captain of men in the military, who has gone on basically to dedicate his life to the end of war. And he's quite extraordinary in the fact that he has done deep research into people who have committed shootings, which probably still lives strongly in the hearts of many on the call from the recent event in Florida. Of all of the factors that you find in the young people's lives who have committed these acts, isolation is the factor that they share. And if you look at all of these things, I feel deep connection, love, not alone, I feel loved. I become integrated into something. The burden changes. And actually, something flows into me of the other person, and I have flowed into them. And that stuck alone in myself with it is overcome. And through that, actually, you could say it's like before in our problems, we're like stuck inside a room with no windows and doors. And the moment somebody, if we opened the window to someone and they didn't go, ah, they stayed with us and they felt with us. Light comes into the room. And we start to feel, someone said, expansive. There's a feeling like we're out of prison. And the whole situation can change. And Paul talks about how in his life, basically his life was saved because somebody did that and does that with him. So that's just a simple moment to reflect on what it means to practice, to receive compassion. To receive compassion. Let's now go into the next slides and deepen this a little bit more. This is a quote from Rudolf Steiner's book, How to Know Higher Worlds. It's a part of something that we'll look at in a little bit more detail. He has a chapter in there, chapter 5, which looks at the things we need to have in place before we even begin the training of esoteric development, personal development, towards our own being able to know in the spiritual world. And there he gives us 7 foundational requirements, things that need to be in place. And the third one begins, we have to win through to the conviction that our thoughts and feelings are as real as our deeds. We have to win through to the conviction that our thoughts and feelings are as real as our deeds. We must know, and this quote is towards the end of that passage, we must know that what we feel has as much impact upon the world as the work done by our hands. Next slide. I don't know how many of you have seen this bumper sticker. It's all over the place in my world. Wherever I've ever been, I come across this bumper sticker. It's an extraordinary, one could spend a long time just looking at this image and taking more deeply looking into it. There's a double pain in here. This experience basically that now moving away from just compassion with a friend, which is easy. Compassion with somebody you know and love. But if you take your heart forces and your compassion forces and you read the news, or you look at a shooter or a violent event, someone I think mentioned briefly, violent video games. How can I look at that with a compassionate heart? How can I look at life in an office with a compassionate heart? How can I look at the political world with a compassionate heart? Now we're upping the bar about what our feeling life can do. And the first level usually is compassion's not even on the table because of this experience of anger and outrage. And so this.
Yeah, can you read it? Just read it so people know if they're just listening.
You're not paying attention. So it's a double outrage. I'm outraged at what's happening in the world, and I'm doubly outraged because it seems like people aren't paying attention. They're going around in the world as if everything's okay. It's not okay. However, if you even look at the colors that the person used to design this particular one with the red and the black, the size of the font, the all caps, it's like if you've ever gotten an email with a subject line as all caps, it's like yelling at me. And so there's something coming out of the feeling life of this expression, which itself has violence in it. A heart has felt violence, been deeply wounded, and is expressing that with such a sign. Now, bear with me. This is very similar to what my daughter does, for example. She will punch me. If she's upset, she communicates her pain by socking me or scratching or kicking. But she's not doing it to, if I react to her violence, we end up in a long chain of violence. If I practice compassion with her, it's not easy to be disrespected by my child. It's really painful. And there's a part of me that wants to go, oh, my pride reacts like this, this is your dad, or don't you dare, and all that kind of stuff, which comes out of my pride. The compassionate heart sees through to the fact that it is emerging out of I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm in pain, I'm frustrated, I'm little, I'm growing, I don't know how to stop myself. So the heart of compassion with her lets me see through the hit to the pain underneath. And that's similar with this sign. I can get reactive to it, and you can have this other chain of reaction, like, oh yeah, you know, or I can try to see this is somebody trying to express their pain. And that's the radical kind of compassion that Paul Chappell practices. He sees that actually those people who are picking up those guns are actually trying to communicate. They're in so much pain. They want others to feel pain. It's not logical. It's not like sitting down at a desk and being like, let's see how I can communicate this. Obviously, it's coming out of this very, very deep, wounded, visceral place. So for me, next slide, because that's just painful to look at for too long. Oh, actually, I don't think can we go off slides for a second?
Yeah.
For me, when we, another great example recently, just to bring in an example, was in Baltimore. It was, I think, 2015, 14 or 15. There was a younger man from Baltimore, black man, who died in the van, the police van, while they held him in handcuffs. And when that came out, there was severe rioting in the city, in the African American community. And the news coverage was, you know, could not practice what I just described, to put it in its gentle way. Instead of reading this as this built up suffering and rage and sense of powerlessness and helplessness, leading to people jumping up and down on cars, turning them over, lighting them on fire. Instead, you know, these like sanctimonious condemnations of the behavior. So then someone acts out in this way, and then there is this continued practice in our time of condemnation. This is just terrible, you know, this kind of, you know, and just saying it's a kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Dismissal of the behavior and an inability to feel through the surface empathetically into the souls of those who are in that situation. So what happens is, now I'll go to a more funny example that we all are very familiar with. It's one of the more profound places where spiritual work is taking place or not, and that is the highway, the freeway, driving. Getting cut off, being, obviously it's really frightening driving in a car really fast, and so if somebody's doing things that isn't safe, we are very quick to rage and anger, and that's where a lot of expletives start coming out. And if you could see spiritually what the highways look like, if you could see the kind of smoke clouds of dark soul emissions, not just the emissions from the car, but the soul emissions that are coming up from human souls, you get a feeling this is what, of course, happened. We have to begin to, no, we don't have to, but for those of us who want to go this path, we will recognize that the only way forward is to see that our feelings are realities. And if somebody does something to me and I then am filled with hatred, anger, condemnation, that's destructive. I'm actually continuing the process. Maybe not physically, but in spiritual scientific terms, astrally, in the soul realm, I am emitting these things. So if you'll go to the next slide.
Okay.
Rudolf Steiner then describes, in order to give this a little bit of reality, he says, when you look with the eyes of the spirit, in the spiritual world, in the spirit land, when you come to the realm of feeling, what you experience around the whole world is what amounts to atmosphere, air. The soul air every soul is breathing is made up of feeling. The third domain of the land of spirits is its atmosphere. Everything that appears in the sense perceptible world as feeling, so whatever we feel here, exists in the spiritual realm as an all-pervading presence, just like the air on the earth. We have an aura, and that aura, that astral cloud, is within the cloud of the earth. And whatever stormy things are happening in me are going into that atmosphere. Or you could say, in the feeling factory of my own soul, do I meet the EPA requirements? Or is there a kind of exhaust coming out of me that is actually poisonous to my brothers and sisters around the earth? Next slide, please.
I'm just picturing the highways. That was excellent. Thank you.
So Rudolf Steiner gives one of the antidotes he gives to this is a meditation. And this meditation I'd like to give to us all who will want to participate further in this for when we meet again in April, or May 2nd, I think it is. To live with and try to live with and see how it affects the way we are in the world, the way we see things, the way we live. From the beginning of his life as a spiritual teacher at the turn of the century, 20th century, till the end of his life, Rudolf Steiner gave one meditation over and over again to his individual students in the most different ways. And that had to do with the work of, you could say, the transformation of the ancient mystery words, "Oh, human being, know yourself." That actually in our time, it is not okay to just say that. What you end up with is navel gazing and the billion-dollar self-help industry, which in saying that, it sounds like I've dismissed an entire industry of which has been very helpful. I apologize for that comment. What I mean by that is the tendency to be self-involved, to actually heal myself. Here, actually, Rudolf Steiner gives us the secret to the healing, which is actually, if you seek yourself, don't actually look within. Look into the world. So I'll read the first one. Do you seek yourself? So search outside in the world. Do you seek the world? So search within yourself. That was given in 1907. We see another version in 1923. Do you seek the world? Then deeply search your own heart. Do you long to know your own soul? Then search in the world in all directions. Many of these can be found in the collection of Truth-Wrought Words, I think is the usual title for that book. Here we see, you could say, the breath. The breath has entered this atmosphere. If I condemn something in the world based on this picture, then I am condemning myself. And what I see out there in the world is a revelation of what lives inside me. Does hatred not live in me anywhere? Does a lack of understanding not live in me anywhere? and so forth. And vice versa, if I'm trying to understand what I find in the world, I should practice some self-knowledge.
Patrick,
yeah, go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, I've heard someone say once that what's coming at you is coming from you. And so sort of a similar exchange, like if you're condemning someone outside of you, look what's coming from you. So I'm seeing that exchange again. It's like not just the self, it's, you have to look at both there. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
the deepest level of compassion is actually to see myself in the other. And gets back to one of the most misunderstood words of Jesus in the Gospels, where he says, love God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and your neighbor as yourself. Now that sometimes, actually almost everywhere I go, gets understood as love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's not what it says. Love your neighbor as yourself. Grant selfhood to the other. See them as you would see, that's me. The one who is there on the street corner, suffering. The one who is there yelling at somebody. The one who is there doing violence. How is that me? How do I begin to stretch my soul and my eyes so much in the work and practice of compassion that I allow myself to identify with everyone? That's the great work that the Buddha teaches and that the Christ did. What you do to the least of my brothers and sisters, you do to me. That's the consequence of that expression. And what you find now is that that's actually happening in our lives. People are actually feeling a lot more than they'd like to. I think actually what is happening, our auric field is more open. We're expanding well beyond the limits of our body, and so we're more sensitive. And so when something happens at Fukushima in Japan, and there's a meltdown of the reactors, when there's an earthquake in Haiti, when there's violence somewhere far away from us and only a few people die, it affects people really deeply. And the future that's coming towards us is we will not be able to be happy if someone else is unhappy. That's our future. Compassion, you could say, is our destiny. And that's why it's also, I would say, I want to kind of lead this towards, as we wrap up now, why is this initiation? Next slide, please. Next slide.
one more.
Yeah, one more. No, that's not it either, sorry.
That's okay. They're all good.
Yeah, all good. Then we can put the slides away for now.
Okay. And then I don't know if we'll have any time for questions, but I feel like there might be a couple out there. So yeah.
Really nice.
Okay, I'm going to stop the screen share now so people can just see you.
Just to close there. One of the people who wrote in the chat about what happens when someone feels what they're feeling described it so beautifully in this quality. I think it was an expansive connection into oneness. That what was separate, you're over there and I'm over here, actually was bridged, and we flow together through this realm of the feeling. You could imagine now with this picture of atmosphere, there's a way in which we are breathing into one another through the practice of fellow feeling. But what that means is usually initiation is nothing other than dying, to be very simple. And dying means expanding beyond my body. That's what dying means, the process whereby I expand out beyond the limits of my body and overcome my self-centeredness. Death is the great healing act for our self-centeredness. Really. It's actually health brought to us by the gods. Because when we enter our physical body, we're naturally self-centered because we're in this, I'm over here, you're over there. And when we die, we overcome our self-centeredness by expanding into all things. The work of compassion is the work of dying while I'm alive, where I stop living in my own personal feelings, break out beyond my own borders, and let somebody else in, let something else in. And as I practice that, what comes in is the other person, the world events, and it impacts me. And this is where I want to close with this picture. The secret to what will be the question of how does the heart become a bearer of the Christ? The picture for that is the Grail. And the Grail, if you imagine, is made up out of a metal, a soft gold. Metal, to be shaped into a Grail, must be hammered. It has to be hammered. It takes blows to shape it into a receptacle. And the wisdom of the universe is saying, it is time, human beings, for you to go out and look into the depths of where the human spirit can fall, and to feel that, and to be impacted by that, to risk finding the courage to feel the world. And in so doing, we will die to ourselves and begin actually living in the world. And that itself means that the spirit of the world begins to live in us. That's a beginning of what we will then deep in our next session.
Wow. Thank you, Patrick. I know some people are going to have comments or thoughts they want to share, and we just have a few minutes here, but
I mean, I'm happy to go a few minutes over too, if people can, or you can.
okay, I can.
Shall we say till 20?
Yeah, I think probably just till 25 up.
25, okay.
Yeah, sorry about that, but okay, so does anyone have questions? Someone could listen to you for hours is what they're saying, and I agree. I mean, there's just so much more, and thankfully we're going to do this a couple more times. I wrote down that sentence: the work of compassion is dying while I am still alive. And yes, and I've just come off this huge death and dying conference that we had in Sacramento, and I'm thinking about, the positivity that we had about that kind of death. And now there's this other death experience, and, with the blows that we have to take and be shaped, and it's really beautiful. I wonder if anybody has any comments or questions that they want to ask, or just to say, or anything that was really salient for them in particular that they want to share. We're welcome to hear those if anybody wants to. Maybe everybody's just taking it in. Just wait another minute. Can you tell us, do you have the name of that book and the resources, Paul Chappell?
I don't have Paul's work. I should definitely put it in there.
Okay. I think I'm sure I'm going to get a question about that if I haven't already here.
Does it work, Laura, to give you the resources page kind of alone, and then and you can share that on the place where everyone can get access to it?
Yeah, sure. That's great. I had somebody saying, I think we can feel the sixth epoch coming. When we will not be all right unless everyone else is. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's something in there from Teresa
Mm-hmm.
that I'd like to respond to. She mentions that in beginning this practice and this work, beginning small and beginning close to home works best, and then moving out from there. And I definitely agree. I can recommend, though, if you have one area of interest in the world, also something in the news or something that you do follow anyway that's challenging, that's difficult to look at for you. It can be a kind of exercise to go in there and work with the feeling practices, to see through things in a more deep way, past that surface to what is underneath. What would it feel like to be in their shoes? Where is this coming from? Yeah, we definitely ran out of time. And so next time, I think what we'll have to do is pick up a little bit with the practices side, but we will also want to get into the story of the fifth gospel.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's interesting. I sort of see the question almost about trauma in here, that which I think is definitely everybody's talking about it in this country for sure. When you've had that trauma as a child, and then you're still you're sensitive, and then it's hard not to be reactive. And maybe when we talk about these practices, we can talk about that a little bit more next time.
That's one that would be good just to take right away.
Mm-hmm.
You could say trauma becomes the signature experience of what it means to be a human being now.
Yeah.
Of course, varying levels, and some people have experienced extreme trauma. And in those cases, often it's a therapeutic situation. You can't ask anything more of that heart except to give it love and the necessary therapeutic support. However, from my life and relationship with Paul not only went to the war theater, he's actually a sufferer of the effects of war because he is a victim of child abuse at home. His father was a Korean War veteran, and he suffered tremendous abuse because his dad started having PTSD episodes in his 50s when he was a young boy. And he was an only child as well. And what happens is, of course, is your trust in the universe is eroded. So one of the first steps in compassion, actually, to protect your heart, to start, is actually not start with your heart. The safe place to begin compassion is actually in your mind. And that's where you could say you can take an interest in something. So let's say for some reason you might have a tremendously hard reaction against a certain individual, that it just, you feel unfree in the relationship, and what you can do is you can keep your guard up on your heart and work to see if you can, that door is closed, can you open this one? Can you, okay, so this is how it comes out, and I love to talk about this, like, I just can't understand how that person is doing that. And that statement is so beautiful because it says a truth. I can't understand why that person is doing that. And that's actually the problem. It's my problem. There is a reason a person is doing something. But when I say it that way, it doesn't sound like there is any possible reason that could be given. And I don't even want to allow it, because then I think I will be allowing and condoning it. But the first practice can simply be, who is this? What's their story? What have they gone through in life? What is the background to this moment? What did they eat that day? If I don't have any information yet, if I don't have any backstory, I'm in no position yet to make any judgments. I don't know what's going on. I have to suspend that and start with interest. And the quote I have from, I think I mentioned to you before, is this, an enemy is a person whose story we don't know. An enemy is someone whose story we haven't heard yet.
Mm-hmm.
So loving our enemies is not, you can't just like pour love out. You start by opening the first door, which is the safe door, which is attention, interest, and so forth. Looks like we got another minute in here. And that's part of how you heal actually trauma. You need to rescue faith in humanity. You actually have to rescue faith in humanity in your mind.
Mm.
And discover that the power of compassion is actually the only way forward. And then you can start something in yourself. Start a healing. Oh, wow.
So we have some comments left on here, and I think that we're going to have to take those over to the next
I will read them
webinar.
and really live with them. There's some really great ones in here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And we'll see you next time. And thank you for your thoughtful questions and ideas. And thank you, Patrick, for agreeing to do this and for bringing this in such a beautiful and modern and applicable way for all of us.
Yeah.
Yes, so many questions. Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll gather soon. Again, keep your questions with you, email them to us, and we should be able to go through and look at them too. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, everyone. I wish I could have seen you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.